All right, guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about pilots, right? So this is the big news for the day. So apparently Arvix, if you guys don't know Arvix, I think from what I understand is that it's not even a person, it's like a group of people. Uh, and they essentially just go around buying a lot of old, bigger accounts, right? I always joke that they just turn like old, like legendary accounts, right? Into like essentially like Agent Smith from the Matrix, and then either put them in some of these like bigger Vietnamese kingdoms that they have an influence in, or some of the top M's like 1960, 1365, right? Like that aren't necessarily the big Viet kingdoms, but they have an Arvix account there. So apparently, what happened? And by the way, supposedly I'm not supposed to talk about buying and selling, right? So maybe I'll get in trouble, but oh well. Uh, the other part, maybe I'm not supposed to talk about, is piloting, right? Even though we all know it exists, especially as the kingdom gets more and more competitive, the piloting situation gets more and more crazy, right? Like maybe in a seed kingdom, you find a pilot for you, or like people have accounts piloted, but it's just like a friend or like an acquaintance that that just wants to play for fun, right? So as you get into these bigger and bigger KVKs, there's actually more and more paid pilots, right? And often they're actually paid by KP. Now, this is something that, from my understanding, it's not publicly acknowledged. We're supposed to pretend it doesn't exist. But then in the past, where something like this has happened, and let's actually go over what happened, right? So apparently, whoever was piloting or has access to the Arvix accounts decided to delete the troop gear and armaments, so they're all gone, right? So you can see there's almost no troop power. There's a crap load of KP, and apparently there's no equipment or armaments. And to be honest, hundreds of thousands of dollars were probably spent on this equipment and armament, and even troops, right? And Lilith in the past had said that their security is your own responsibility, and just didn't do a rollback. Right? They could easily pick a day, roll it back to that, and give all the stuff back. And this actually puts this in a very interesting situation, because this is like a turning point, or like an inflection point for Lilith, right? One, are you going to actually acknowledge that pilots exist, right? And one way you do that is, do you actually roll this back? If you roll it back, then for all the people that you didn't roll it back before, right, what are they going to feel? And if you actually are willing to roll it back for these Arvix accounts, are you going to do it in the future? I don't know, right? The other one is, what are we going to do about piloting in the future, right? Is it still going to be a thing that goes on? Is this something that we're actually going to do something about? I feel like what's healthier for the game is just to either say no pilots or acknowledge that pilots exist, right? But to just kind of let it go on but not talk about it. And then this game, and I think a lot of people agree with this, especially people that have been around longer, isn't necessarily more fun now with pilots than it was before, right? Because what pilots do essentially is it allows a lot more activity, right? And it allows people that actually don't even know the game or aren't good at the game to be known as like a good player, right? This isn't everyone, but there's literally very big players, well-known players, that a lot of people know just actually aren't that good at the game, or literally don't know how to play the game, right? But because this person or these people could spend a lot of money and actually pay for pilots, and essentially not only is the spend there, but then they're able to have this like extensive piloting network, so their account could be on 24/7. All of a sudden, their accounts are not only very productive, but also the account is known as like a top player, right? And it's just like very interesting dynamic, right? You can imagine in another game, right? Let's just say like a battle royale game, right? And then like a person actually gets all the credit, right, for the accomplishments of that account, but they either completely don't know how to play the game, or actually like very, very rudimentary like skill level at the game, but because they can actually pay other people to play their accounts, so they're known as a good player. It's kind of weird, right? My personal opinion on this, I think I prefer for pilots to not exist. Currently, my account, I have played 11 KVKs. I did not use a pilot for the first 9. KVK 10 was when I actually gave in and used it, and I can tell you really specifically what it was. This was last KVK, so not this one we're currently in, but the one before. We were fighting a kingdom where our uptime and their uptime were the complete opposite. It was a Korean kingdom, and I was actually on a trip where I didn't really have access to my computer, so it's only on the phone. But then also, I felt bad because my kingdom actually needed me for my account to be on, right? Because other people are doing it, and then I finally gave in, and I actually got a pilot for the first time, KVK 10, or at least I asked someone to play my account for me. My personal thoughts on it, I think it would actually be better for the game if it just completely went away. It kind of like puts a grind factor to it, right? You want to talk about a game that's like pay to win, right? When you can even pay for other people to play the game for you, that's like the ultimate pay to win, right? Whereas like, if you have a 17-year-old kid that maybe isn't able to afford spending a lot in the game, but they can just hustle and grind and then just actually put in a lot of time in the game versus someone that maybe has a lot of money but they can't play as much, all of a sudden there's a lot more parity and it makes this game a lot more interesting, right? I think hustling and playing your own account and learning the game yourself and actually being able to do that stuff, if that was actually part of how productive you are and how conducive you are to helping your kingdom win, I think overall that just makes sense and makes the game better, right? So it'll be really interesting because this is a very public thing, right? Anyone could look up these accounts. They're big, well-known accounts in the kingdoms that we all know. And, it's not that hard to just kind of see what happened to these accounts over the next 2 or 3 days. Or like, this account is currently in KVK and supposedly all the equipment and armaments deleted, right? And then you see these accounts fighting on the field like a week later. And obviously it got restored back, right? And if it did get restored back, is Lilith going to actually acknowledge piloting? Right? Because that's essentially kind of what they're doing. And they acknowledge piloting. What about the other people that had the same thing happen in the past? Are they also going to give them the same privileges that they give these Arvix accounts? Which I would hope they do, right? Because, you want to at least, if you're going to do something, at least to be consistent and be fair about it. And then what about if this stuff happens in the future? Are you also going to roll back people's accounts if you do it for the Arvix? If you don't, I feel like that sets a pretty clear message. I personally, I would, really respect the integrity of them doing this, and then like, well, let's take another step further then, right? Like, are we just going to actually address this piloting thing, and then just do something about it? I'll be on the record to say, I would be 100% on board with just making it where you can't pilot accounts. I know, there could people that will probably disagree, but I think you playing your own account and you getting credit for your own account that you're playing should also be part of the game. And overall, long term, right, it might upset some people if we take away piloting, but I think for like the fun of the game, but also to put it in a healthier place, taking away pilots will probably actually help everyone. That doesn't mean like I'm not necessarily like looking down on it or making it wrong, right? Because if it's something that the game is going to allow, right, and then people take advantage of it, that's just what it is, right? It's just kind of like back in the day, well, not even back in the day, right? Like up until this like recent update, fort walls were a certain way, right? And they actually made a change to fort wall before, where the fort wall was a little less powerful, and now with these new updates, they're going to make it even less powerful. You can start changing and tweaking stuff that's allowed in the game to actually just make it more fun overall, right? So this is something that's interesting. Hopefully we get some clarity, and hopefully, again, I'm rooting for just no pilots allowed in the game, but let's see what happens. All right, if you watched all the way to the end yet, you haven't, please like and subscribe to the video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you guys next time.